Good morning, everyone. This is Gail Dudley with your News in Motion. Today is Thursday, August the 27th, 2020. How are all of you doing on this Thursday morning? I'm exhausted. I will not lie. I am exhausted. With so much news popping off on yesterday, and then we had the Republican National Convention. The news was definitely in motion the entire day on yesterday. Good morning, Patricia. So yeah, I'm exhausted. And I have one more night of this RNC. One more night. Good morning, Pastor Alex. So I want to jump in. I'm gonna try real hard not to be with you long today. Again, I'm exhausted. You probably hear it in my voice. You probably see it on my face. But we're going to keep pressing forward. We have to keep pressing forward. So before I even get into the RNC this morning, again, news was like never ending on yesterday. It was never ending. Good morning, Brenda Randleman. It was never ending. So several sources, and I'm not for sure who gave this initial quote, so forgive me for whoever gave this initial quote. They said, we have the largest sports activism in U.S. history with postponement of games in the NBA, the WNBA, the MLB, and I also believe that the soccer league did it as well, the major soccer league. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, yeah, and I cannot take credit for that quote, and I don't know. There were several people saying it, but one person made that initial quote. Again, we have the largest sports activism in U.S. history with postponement of games in the NBA, the WNBA, the MLB, and also the major soccer league. So the Milwaukee Bucks declined to take the court for Game 5 for their first round playoff series against the Magic to protest the shooting in Wisconsin. They made they were like, we're not doing this. Kenosha is 40 miles south of Milwaukee. The city's NBA team, the Bucks, started to boycott Wednesday, and they go on with the statement. The Bucks made a statement for state lawmakers to reconvene to take immediate action to address the issues of police accountability, brutality, and criminal justice reform. So yay. Yes, good morning. I'm missing some of you. Good morning. So yay to that. So let's just pray. We also have Hurricane Laura, who hit landfall as a Category 4, but since weakened to a Category 2. So let's just pray for Texas and Louisiana. Vice News coined the killer of two as an inspiring cop. So we have that. The naturalization ceremony, which happened on Tuesday night, there were two people who were unaware of that. So we have that. Yeah, we have a lot going on. Again, for those of you just joining me, I am exhausted. So if you see it or hear it in my throat, just pray for me. I'm probably getting 3 hours of sleep researching and putting all this together. But I choose to, and I enjoy it. I choose to. So y'all, we have a lot. And this is even before I get to the RNC. I don't know if you missed it yesterday, but the CDC, the COVID testing, they quietly made a change in their guidelines. They're now saying that people without symptoms will not be tested. So even if you've been around someone who has COVID, you're not going to be tested. So they put that in there. They snuck that in there. Also with the young man, and I want to thank Nicole for this. Also with the young man, more than 4 sources has this murderer standing in front row of a Trump rally back in January. Supporting the police, which I know we all support the police. We just want them to do things differently. We want to get the murderers and the killers off of the police force. That's what we're asking for. So even when the RNC is talking about the Democrats are saying defund the police, and we're not saying get rid of the police. Good morning, everyone that's coming in. Good morning, Beverly. So thank you, Nicole, for sending that to me. And then when you have a moment, please check out, it's on my wall, it's public. Please check out the Elizabeth Newman ad that's on my Facebook wall. She is the former Homeland Security Assistant Secretary in the Trump administration. Her words are they're very chilling. They're serious. It's almost as if she's sending a warning. She's still a Republican, but she has since crossed over saying she is going to vote for the Biden-Harris ticket. Anytime you have inside people coming out saying something, y'all, we need to listen to what it is that they have to say. We really need to listen to them. And then also shared by Adrian, and she's on here. I think I saw her. Oh, she's on there now. Dr. Fauci didn't approve those changes. That's right. Dr. Fauci did not approve those changes. Dr. Birx did not approve those changes. And to my understanding, the CDC did not approve those changes, but they went ahead and did it anyway because it was for lack of a better word, a command from the White House administration to do that. So here we are in a place where numbers, they've slowed just slightly. But the deaths are over 180,000 deaths in the U.S. And now you're going to say people who do not have symptoms. But what about those who are asymptomatic? What about that? So we need to pay attention to this. And again, I'm not even into the RNC piece yet, y'all. I had other news I wanted to share with you first. Also shared by Adrian, there's this organization called More Than a Vote. It's a voting rights organization led by none other, LeBron James, and other sports athletes. They're launching a national campaign to recruit poll workers for November 2020. It's a $1 million initiative that they're putting forth. They're wanting to fight systemic racism and voter suppression. So y'all hear me. I've been talking about the poll workers for several weeks now. The number that I pulled up yesterday, it's over a need of 500,000 poll workers are needed throughout the U.S. There are some people I know you have been checking it out, and you find out that where you are located is filled. Now that's going to be the hard part in some states, not in all states. There's some states that you can, as long as you're within a certain mile radius, you can go to that. But there are some that's saying if it's not in your community, you cannot be a poll worker. So even now, they're finding a way to suppress poll workers. Y'all, if you have to fight this hard, and hear me, if you have to fight this hard to get us not to vote, we should be asking the question, why? Yes, thank you, Adrian, morethanavote.com. Thank you for that. Please check that out, people. But we need to be asking the question, why are you trying so hard to suppress my voice and to suppress my vote? We now put out there that we need poll workers. Now you're rewriting rules saying that, if you don't live in this certain radius, then you can't be a poll worker. If it's not within your own community, then you can't be a poll worker. That's ludicrous. But y'all, this is why we vote. And I know you're getting sick of me saying this, but I'm going to keep saying it. This is why we vote. This is why we must register to vote. Because we have to hold our elected officials accountable, and we have to see change. And just quickly going over to RNC, then I'll go back over there in a moment. Everything that they were saying yesterday, and I don't know if you've been watching, but if like me, yesterday was Wednesday, so night three, they all are saying the same thing. It is as if that they sent out a template and they told you to fill in the blank of this template, but they're all saying the same thing. So even yesterday, and I was watching, I watched like 7 different news outlets. And I have my laptop, my iPad, my iPhone, then I have my television, then I have a monitor, just everything where I'm just looking, trying to see what's happening. And everyone was saying the same thing. Even reporters with Washington Post, with Politico, they're all saying, I don't know about you, but this has been the longest night. And we're hearing the same thing over and over and over again. So they're trying to drill into us that we're not free. But here's the truth, we are. But what's happening is that they're holding us captive, because if you're telling us we can't mail in ballots, if you're telling us that we can't work the polls, if you're telling us we can't do this, that, or the other, no, you're the ones that are holding us hostage, and we're trying to be free. We're really trying to be free. So my for the win again, that would be LeBron James. And again, it's a multi-million-dollar campaign. I said $1 million, a multi-million-dollar campaign. So they're kicking it off, and they're partnering with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And that was all confirmed. The initiative was confirmed by CBS News. Okay, y'all. So last night, so that was news that I thought was more important than the RNC. So last night, y'all, there were 22 speakers. 22. And literally, they were all saying the same thing. This was a fear-mongering night. South Dakota governor opened by saying, today our founding principles are under attack. Then she goes on to quote, President Trump has lifted people out of poverty. I don't know where that's founded, but that's what she said. And then she goes on to say that Democrat-run cities are in chaos. People who can are fleeing. Those who can't are stuck. Yeah, those were her opening words. And then I kept going back to PBS NewsHour and MSNBC, because they were fact checking as they were going. And that last statement, Democrat run cities are in chaos, was false. That's false. Factcheck.org also stated that was false. Then Keith Kellogg, National Security Advisor to the Vice President, he said the next 4 years will decide the course of our nation for decades to come. I actually agree with that. So we have a choice as to how we're going to vote. Now, he was saying vote for the current occupant, but his statement is actually true. The next 4 years will decide the course of our nation for decades to come. I believe that. And then Kayleigh McEnany, as y'all know, she's the White House press secretary. She gave a very compelling story about her life. And one thing that I can say, and I say this to believers who are out doing evangelism, no one can argue your story. Now, that's the truth. No one can argue your story. Only you can tell your story, and no one else can argue it, because no one else really knows your story. So she started out with a very, very, very compelling story. She said 8 women in her family have been diagnosed with breast cancer, one being her mom, who had a double mastectomy. And then she said the first call, then she decided to have one for prevention. And the first call that she received was from Ivanka Trump after her surgery. She said then Donald Trump, and again, I'm using his name this week, Donald Trump called caring about her circumstances. And then she goes on to say, this is where she loses me. She goes, Donald Trump supports you. Donald Trump fights for the people who lost their jobs. There's that. And then she said she wants her daughter to grow up in Donald Trump's America. Her story was powerful. It was the additional information that made me pause and ask questions. And I said, what is Donald Trump's America? And I began to look at their website. I began to look at the governor's website right now, the White House website. I started looking at everything that had any resemblance of the Trump family, the Trump name. That's not America that has my name on it. That's not America that even has me as any part of the fabric of America. So I don't want that. Again, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I am here to tell you to raise your voice, or not tell you. I'm here to ask you to raise your voice. I'm here to ask you to let your voice matter, and I'm here to ask you to vote with your voice. Then we had Second Lady Karen Pence, who pretty much focused on military spouses and employment, and then the blessing of heroes. That was pretty much her stance. Then we had Kellyanne Conway, and I'm missing a few people here and there. She's the outgoing White House counselor. I'm sure her last day was last night after making her speech. She said she was raised, again, a compelling story. You cannot argue anyone's story. She said she was raised in a household of all women. They were resilient. But then she went another place, which I understand is still her story, but it's like, what are you saying behind that? She says they never complained and they believed in faith and freedom. She goes, they did not limit their dreams. And then she called for America that if you have a dream and if you don't limit your faith and if you're not in bondage, you too can have everything that they have. I argue that. And my reason for arguing that is because we just can't do, there's certain people, there's a certain demographic of people who cannot just go out and do that. I'm no longer going to pretend that, oh, we're all equal. We're not. We're not all equal. So I cannot pretend and say that we are. We're not. I think about, and I'm using myself because I want to give you a real story. So I grew up in a two-parent household. My parents are both still alive. They're both 85. My father worked at a pretty decent place, Rockwell International, then changed to Boeing. He was in management there. Okay, but there was a time before he got there. We were on government cheese. We were my brother's on here, my sister's on here. They can tell you. We would stand and get some government cheese. We would get our lunch over at the poolside. You know those little triangle juices with you put your straw in, and you had like I think a cheese in the middle of two pieces of bread. There might have been some bologna on it. There were times that they were downsized. There was all kinds of things. So we grew up what some would call the hood now. Decent neighborhood is now being gentrified now. They have not moved since that's the house that they live in now that I was born and raised in. We walked to school. We had a decent family. Okay, but still today, there's things I can't do because of the color of my skin. Many of you know this. I was discriminated against at a Christian organization. Yes. And I was the vice president of diversity, and I was discriminated against. I was downsized. I was removed because the person didn't want diversity. So that happened. So I've lived these things. So I can't sit back and say I can do some of the things that other people can do, what Kelly and Conway and what's the other young Kaylee McEnany can do and what some of these other people can do. And I'm sure all of you have a story as well. And I would love for you to flood either this thread or your own thread and tag each other to talk about your story. If you have a blog, put your blog in there and post a story about your blog because we need to get our stories out as well. We need to get, now, was I living on the other side of the railroad tracks? No, I wasn't. But we worked hard as a family. We lived in a double. My grandparents was on one side. We were on the other side. We were able to go across through the attic to go to either side of the house. Yeah, it was different. It was different. Being married, it hasn't been easy. It's been rough. And I don't have any problems sharing that. It's been rough because no, you're overqualified. That's the word. Or no, you don't have what we're looking for. So to say you can just go out and get any job that you want to get, that is not true for some of us. That's not true. You know, yesterday, and I hesitated to do this, and I did not do this. My son's been over because, you know, my daughter, and we're just having a good family time. But he was over, and when he was going to leave yesterday, I was going to ask this question, like, what would you do if the police stopped you? But I stopped from asking that question because I said, that's a place of fear. So I'm not going to ask the question. But because I have a black son, because I have a black husband, I'm concerned about them every time they leave my house. That's the truth. So free America, we do not have a freedom of America when it comes to certain people. We don't have that. We don't have that. And even though I have a daughter, I have a black daughter, I worry about her, but not as much as I worry about my husband and my son. That is what's happening. That is what's happening. You know, it's sad. And I'm going to tell y'all this. I had no idea that I was going to go this direction. But let's just go here for a moment. Because they've been talking about freedom, freedom of religion. They've been talking about if you want to be a part of the land of the free. But let's be honest. And here I am. So let me just share this story with you. When I think about what we have to go through, and I'm just going to be completely transparent, and you can agree or disagree with me, but I'm going to just take the covers off. There are times, now the ring I have on now, this is probably a total of $20, okay, from TJ Maxx. I've been wearing it since the pandemic, and when I got this, when I went over to Zimbabwe several years ago. And I wear it when I go out of town or out of the country. I have another ring that after 25 years in marriage, my husband blessed me with another ring. And hear me, I want y'all to hear me. When I go certain places, when we weren't in a pandemic, when I go certain places, I specifically put on that other ring so that I'm treated differently. Now, that's just full transparency. Agree or disagree, I'm just taking the covers off. I will wear that ring so that I know I'll get treated differently. And it's amazing how many people will see those diamonds and they treat me differently. I've noticed it. When people look at my address and people know that zip code, they'll treat me differently. Why is that? Why can't you just treat me as a human being the moment you see me? Many of you have seen on this video where I leave my hair naturally curly. But there are certain times when I'm going certain places or in certain meetings, I have to take the blow dryer, the round brush, blow it dry, blow it straight, and use a flat iron. Why? Because it's who I'm dealing with. Isn't that sick? That's sick. But I know as a 55-year-old woman, if I'm going to certain meetings, I'm going to have to do a certain thing. I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. So when I hear them going through their litany of freedom and we want to be free and we like black and brown people, I was so sick of that last night. I cannot tell y'all how irritating that was for me. I was sick of it. I really do want to hear your stories. And I think we have to get our stories out there as well. So then we had Lou Holtz, former college football coach. He said, I may have been poor, but the lessons my parent taught me were priceless. Good or bad, don't blame anyone else. Get to work. Anyone can amount to something special. Hard work and taking responsibility. He goes, people like to blame others for their problems. He goes, they don't have pride in themselves. America remains the land of opportunity. Feeds into what I just shared with y'all. Then he said this, which really disturbed me. He said Catholic in name only when he was talking about Biden and Harris. And I wrote in my notes, because I'm typing, I'm writing, I'm doing all these different things. I wrote in my notes, isn't that judging? So let me just, and I'm sure all of you watching this already know this. Matthew 7, 1-3 says in the NIV, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? And that's what gave me strength yesterday, watching this mess of propaganda. Just watching that. It's like, there was a line crossed yesterday. There's been a line crossed since Monday. And hear me, I would say that regardless of who's in office, what I'm seeing the past 3 days. But there was a line crossed yesterday. Then Representative Elise, and I didn't get her last name, the youngest Republican woman elected to Congress, she called the impeachment a scam and said the attack was on all of us trying to silence our voices. And then she says that Donald Trump is the only candidate who's able to protect America. And I have a real question here. How can they believe what they're saying? I'm trying to understand, y'all. Can we not hear or can they not hear? Somebody's not hearing something. There are literally two different realities going on, and I'm really confused. I'm really confused. And I'm sitting there, and last night I was praying. I was asking God, I said, God, what scripture am I not reading correctly? What is happening here? There's something that's off here. Please help me understand. If these people are your children, and I can't judge, I don't know if they are or they're not, but how can they lie, number one? And how can they believe the stuff that they're hearing? Number two, I said, Jesus, I really need you to answer that for me. And I didn't get an answer. So if you have an answer, please let me know. Then we had Madison, which I actually like Madison. He's a 25-year-old who's running for Republican Congress in North Carolina. He would be the youngest congressman if elected. Now, he had some very wonderful things. He did say, and he charged the Republicans with this comment. He said, define what we support. And I said, it's like, okay. But I've been watching him lately. He's the one who was in a horrific accident. He's now in a wheelchair. He did stand up at the end of his speech. I cannot disagree with a lot of what he said about his platform, what he wants to see and what he wants to do. So he was really good. Then we had Jack Brewer. Y'all know he's the guy that's under investigation for insider trading. They almost pulled him from speaking, but they allowed him to speak. He said, as a black man, all lives matter. He said, we need black fathers. Now hear this. We need black fathers in the homes with their wives. When the Lord starts blessing, he goes on to say, his mother said this, when the Lord starts blessing, the devil starts messing. I did not understand his connection with that. And then he said that he's black voices for Trump, and that it's time for black voices for Trump to turn from our wicked ways. I didn't understand that either. I didn't understand that. Yes, Demia. Yes, Demia. Y'all, Demia, if y'all ever need any one-on-one coaching, I'm calling her out, one-on-one coaching, diversity training, consulting when it comes to diversity, systemic racism, any of that, she's the person to contact. Seriously. So, Demia, put your contact information on here. Now, y'all, the spin, and they broke this down on every news source I was watching. This is still, what's his name? Jack Brewer. He made the comment, he said, Trump did not say very fine white supremacist white people that you hear the news media saying. Every news channel said, no, he didn't say that. He did say that they are very fine people on both sides. And on one of the sides were white supremacists, nationalists, white nationalists, racists. It was clear there was the Black Lives Matter side, and then there was the side that they said that they were white supremacists and white nationalists. So he did say they are very fine people on both sides. Jack Brewer tried to spin that to say something else, which no one ever said he said that. But everyone knows who was on both sides of that piece in Charlottesville. So there's that. So watch how they even spin. And then Joni Ernst continued to talk about Obama, which I thought was so strange because he's not running for president. Joe Biden is. And then she came out with freedom, prosperity, and economic growth. She came out with those three and said that you're not going to get any of that on the other side. All right, y'all, the coronavirus numbers as I wrap up, there are 6,365,000 cases in the U.S. There are 183,653 deaths. There are 3,313,861 that have recovered. And y'all know I go to WHO, which is the World Health Organization. I bypass the CDC. And now y'all know why, since they changed stuff underneath. Then we have Lord Trump. She came out, that's Eric Trump's wife. She gives her story as well. No political experience, but that her father-in-law believed in her. She said that he has lifted 600,000 women out of poverty in 3 years. I can't find anything that says that, but she says that and if you find it, let me know. So far, I can't find anything that says that Trump lifted 600,000 women out of poverty. She, again, the whole defund police, keep kids safe in school. When she goes, we got to have Trump as our law and order president. Many of you know I was in Germany, and every time I keep hearing that, I keep thinking of Hitler. I'm sorry, I'm not saying he's Hitler, but I keep hearing Hitler. And I went to some of those landmarks in Germany, and I went to one where you could still smell death, where people were buried, and some of them are still buried in the grounds. Children, the camps, just everything. So every time they talk, when I hear that, I keep thinking about my time in Germany. And I was there on a prayer missionary journey. And it was at times where all of us were sick because of the stench, the smell, where you could walk on land and you would just stand still on some of this land. So then we have... I'm going to just get down to it, to Vice President Pence. I'm sorry, I'm going so long, y'all. I'm so sorry. Fort McHenry. Now, this is a problem I had with that. Again, they are using taxpayer money to do their convention. And there's a problem. That's back to the hat chat that I talked about yesterday. This has not been opened in 5 months because of the coronavirus. But they had it open last night for his speech. And along with that, having it open last night for his speech, they did not have any testing done on anyone in there. They did not have on masks. Not one person had on a mask. And they were not social distancing at all. So that's one of the problems. Then he opened up and said, this is the site, the battle that inspired the words of the national anthem, the American flag. And then he said the flag, which was hardly mentioned in the DNC. He goes on and says, Trump does things his own way and on his own terms. He said and I have not fact-checked these yet, so you all can check them again. Go to factcheck.org. 500,000 manufacturing jobs across America. He said the lowest unemployment rate for women in 65 years. Build the greatest economy in the world in 3 years. That there was 100,000 ventilators gathered in 100 days. He said no one was ever denied a ventilator. I don't think that's true because I can remember Governor Cuomo saying something about that. He goes, they're slowing the spread of COVID. They're saving lives. He said 9.3 million jobs were created in the last 3 months. No, these are people returning back to their jobs where they were furloughed. He said... he kept talking about Joe Biden. So I did do a fact check on Joe Biden. Joe Biden has not proposed a tax hike on families making $75,000 a year or less. There's a post on Facebook that claims if elected, Joe Biden would increase taxes from 12% to 25% on families earning $75,000 annually. Y'all, that claim is false. That claim is false. He is proposing an increased tax only on those earning $400,000 or more. Only on those for $400,000 or more. Okay, I gave y'all a whole lot. And y'all been staying in here. I see the numbers aren't changing up here. Y'all been staying in here, so thank you. Thank you. We have one more day of this. One more day. So I'll be on tomorrow. 7:25. Please share your story, whether it's in this thread or put your blog link in there or tag me. I want to read your story. And these are the stories we need to be using when we're talking to people about registering to vote. Please, I want to hear your story. So my for the win again is LeBron James, the NBA, and how they're doing this multi-million-dollar partnership with the NAACP to make sure there are poll workers. Because now we see that they're now trying to suppress those of us who want to become poll workers because they're saying if you're not in a certain area, you can't do it. Now, I have not heard that in Ohio, but it is happening in other states. So LeBron James and them for the win again to say we're going to work around how we're going to do this. They're going to open more and more NBA arenas. And I know if you don't have an arena in your city or state, what do? We're going to figure this out. We have 67 days, I believe, Again, have your plan. What are you doing with voting? Are you early voting? Are you requesting an absentee ballot? If you have you turned that back, the application for an absentee ballot? If you have you turned that back in? Y'all, we got to be smart. We got to be smart. We have to support each other as well. We have to support each other as well. Y'all, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. It's time to pray, y'all. It's time to pray. It's been time to pray. So y'all, I have to run over to, LeBron James for president. That's right, Kim. I have to run over to IGTV. Until tomorrow, thank you for hanging with me. And forgive my voice. I'm exhausted. I probably slept 2 hours last night. But I'm loving every moment of this. So until tomorrow, I am Gail Dudley. Share this video. Will y'all please share this video with others? I am Gail Dudley with your News in Motion. Peace out.